What's up in War Eagle War Report family? It's your guy Ike Jones, and we are back with another morning drop today. We're transitioning over into Bama Hate Week, talking about how the Auburn Tigers can potentially get the run game going versus those guys over there. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report. Drop.
Morning drop. It is Monday, November the 20th. Ike Jones, B. Will in here with another great edition of Morning Drop. Hopefully everybody's doing good this Monday. B. Will, how you feeling this morning?
Man, I'm doing all right, man. Just woke up 2 mornings in a row. Like, that didn't really happen.
It does feel kind of surreal. I ain't gonna lie to you, but it happened. It definitely happened. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Before we get into the conversation, let's just make sure that everybody's doing the necessary. Go ahead and share this video with somebody out there on social media. Tag your least favorite Bama fan out there so they can come in here and pretend like they don't care about Auburn, but then consistently talk about Auburn. That's how they like to do. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're out there in the world of podcasts, go ahead and share the pod with somebody. Give us that 5-star review. Let's get into the conversation, though, B. Will. I don't want to play around with this too much. We need to talk the numbers. It's Metrics Monday, so we got to get into them. We got to talk about the numbers, man. And let's be clear. This is a tough defense that we're facing here this coming Saturday, particularly against the run. They are currently number 27 in the country, giving up 117.9 yards per game, 9 rushing touchdowns surrendered on the entirety of the season. Auburn versus Power 5 teams so far this season, rushing totals go as follows: 136 yards versus Cal, 144 yards versus Texas A&M, 219 versus Georgia, 139 versus LSU, 153 versus Ole Miss, 186 versus Mississippi State, 230 versus Vandy, and 354 versus Arkansas. Now, of course, those last two numbers there are crazy. But the one against Georgia is the one, of course, that, we as Auburn fans need to go back and say, what did we do right versus Georgia that allowed us to be able to rush for 219 yards? And the answer to that question, oddly enough, was the quarterback run. It was the additional yards that you didn't expect from the quarterback to be in there giving you versus Georgia.
Yeah.
What you have to ask yourself then subsequently is, can Auburn do that against Bama?
Right.
Now, as far as rush defenses are concerned, Georgia statistically has the better run defense on the season. They're better against the run than Alabama has been this year. So can Auburn find a way to reproduce their rushing success, whether that's via the quarterback or not, versus this Alabama team? How do you feel about it?
Well, some of that has to come down to choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's choice on how the defense wants to defend us. We talked about it after the Georgia game, and you specifically noted that Georgia didn't load the box up. They said, hey, man, we'll give y'all some yards on the ground, no problem. But y'all not going to pass it. And we didn't really pass it. There were definitely a couple of possibilities in the passing game, but we weren't in sync like we haven't been in sync most of the season in the passing game. So we couldn't put up points in the amount or at the consistency that was going to allow us to beat Georgia. We couldn't do it. Now, how would Alabama attack us? I would have told you that after the last 3 SEC games we had, that we were spreading things around. Things looked a little wide open, and that anybody who defended us would have to play honest and balance between the box and between the secondary. And then New Mexico State said, no, not really. Y'all aren't any better. There's a little smoke and mirrors. Yeah, okay. So we're going to load the box up, and we're going to make your guy throw and hit these wide receivers. And we could not do it. I don't know how anybody who has defended us for the last who watched us get defended by New Mexico State last week would do anything other than, yeah, I'm gonna put, I guess depending on what your personnel is already, if you're a great defensive line who's got 4 and you can get a little pressure, or if you all it takes is your base 4 and 2 linebackers to get a lot of pressure and stuff to run, that's all you do. Like, hey, we're really good up front and we're going to play safe on the back end. And that's the luxury you have when you have a lot of talent on the front end, right? You got 6 in the front or you got 7 in the front. If your run defense is tough enough, you could probably do something against us. Now, I think our offensive line, well, the way they have been playing, we matched up well against 6, Georgia 6. And I don't know how often they had 7 down there, but
so that's essentially what it comes down to for Alabama.
Right.
Is Alabama going to be like Georgia and say our front 7 is good enough, we don't need to devote additional guys to the run game?
Right.
Because that's where Georgia really was allowing us to get numbers in the run game, was saying, oh, we can handle it without bringing the run blitzes. We can handle it without trying to send additional guys. Our front 7 can whoop your 5 or 6 and we'll be fine. And that wasn't a winning proposition for them. We were able to get numbers and we were able to run the ball. Is
Right.
Bama going to do the same thing? Or are they going to say, the guys who've had success against this team, stopping them from running, sent 8, sent 9, and said, we'll take our chances with our DBs on the outside being able to stop their receivers, but you guys aren't going to run the ball. Now, that didn't work so well for Mississippi State.
Right.
That didn't work so well for Vandy. That didn't work so well for Arkansas. All of those teams did the same thing. They said, all right, cool, we're going to send more guys than you can block, and it still didn't work.
Right.
Is Bama going to take the Georgia approach, or are they going to take the Mississippi State, Vandy, Arky, New Mexico State approach? That's the question that Auburn has to figure out the answer to and have an answer for. It's actually working with just their 7, because Texas A&M was able to do it. No, actually, Texas A&M sent additional guys against the run too. The teams that have been successful send extra guys.
Right.
Are they going to be stubborn and say, we can win this by whipping you guys up front?
I don't know. You know what the better question is now, though? If we were prepared to face a loaded box with pass options all over the field, and we executed that in our 3-game winning streak, again, I know we're not talking about last week right now. We're not talking about New Mexico State, right? But why couldn't we execute against a loaded box 2 days ago? Like that's still in my memory. Were they just more ready? Or were they preparing? Are they going to be more gassed up for Bama and what they could see against them than they were prepared to execute fully against New Mexico State? Some of that, like you said, it comes down to how Bama chooses to defend us. And some of that is going to come down to, are we ready to face however they're going to defend us? Kevin Steele was mostly aggressive. But again, he was aggressive when we kind of had to be, because we rarely, in his years here, 2016 to 2020, those 5 years, we only had elite pass rushing 2 of those years. So he was aggressive because he kind of had to be, because we didn't have pass rushers that could really get to the quarterback consistently. So he was. I don't know if Bama's good at getting to the quarterback or not. I honestly don't watch them a lot. I know Bama fans think we just waiting by the TV with bated breath, hoping they lose. I really don't. I don't pay attention to y'all. Are they going to load up the box? I would say you probably see some both, honestly. Is probably what you'll see. Too many quality defensive minds over there. We would see some both. I know that you would have to have very little confidence that they can stifle what you could do. I would think that my secondary, if I'm Alabama, which I think is pretty good, on the outside against your receivers, Auburn, I'd be like, yeah, all day. All day. Yeah, we'll take that chance, because I haven't seen anything special from your wide receivers. And if I throw a little pressure at your quarterback, he's going down. That's what I've seen all season long. If I get the smallest amount of pressure on your quarterback, it's over. So maybe if I want to get a little tricky and confuse you a little bit, if you're going to play to turn Peyton Thorne over, then what do? Oh, you look like you're going to bring some, and then you drop back, because if he has to think too much, he's not going to make a good decision. Or he's going to take off and run for very few yards, but we'll keep you between the 20s and you won't get too close. It sounds bad, but I am I'm more worried about like what are our options than theirs. Like they're going to choose to do really one way or the other. I think they have a better chance of defending us, even if they bring a light box. They've got better outside talent on the outside in their secondary than the teams we've had success against on this run. So they would stand a better chance of defending our pass game, even though we looked crisp when we came out against Mississippi State and Vanderbilt and Arkansas. But they don't really have the talent on the outside that Bama does. So I think Bama rolls the dice. They could do some of both, first half, second half, first quarter, second quarter. And I would honestly be worried that we would be able to do anything against it because we haven't looked good on offense outside of those 3 weeks. And our quarterback, again, a little pressure. He's shaky. If the first 2 drives don't work, the whole game is just a crapshoot on whether or not we're going to be able to find open wide receivers. I'm worried. I don't even know what your question was, man. I'm worried as hell.
I was about to say you just sound like a worried fan right now. So we just throw away Georgia as an anomaly. Then Georgia didn't have it.
I think we have to. I mean, well, I don't want to say I think we have to. We played up for Georgia as we hoped we would, and it wasn't an embarrassing game.
Okay, so we're not going to play up for Bama.
We will. We will play up for Bama. I'm so biased because of what I just saw last weekend. It's really hard to separate.
Listen, after watching us play against Cal, I don't know how, and Texas A&M, I don't know how you would not be biased going into the Georgia game and saying there's no way we're going to rush for 219 yards in that game. But we did it.
Yeah, we did.
After watching the New Mexico State game, you think to yourself, there's logically no way that we're going to rush for over 200 yards against Alabama. But can we?
We can. Football, let me tell you something. Football is crazy. I've seen very, very strange outcomes at the end of the season, rivalry games, after a very, very tough loss for one team playing another team that's supposed to be over its head. Football is crazy like that. Kids are emotional like that. I don't know how to. Anybody who says you know exactly what's going to happen in this game, you are lying. Because we have shown enough of a spectrum between good and bad this year to say, I have no idea what I'm going to get. Bama is talented enough and has shown enough on the field this year, particularly late, to say, man, I don't expect them to lay an egg because I haven't seen them lay an egg really since September. So I don't think it's no prediction is really unrealistic. You could say, "Hey, man, we're gonna."
I don't even have a prediction. I'm just asking questions, right? Like I don't know.
I know. I feel like I'm getting interrogated, man. What you
I'm just asking questions, brother. I just want to know. You know what I'm saying?
Can I get a McDonald's meal, please? But yeah, I mean, I absolutely think we could see the best effort we have seen from this team all year, and I'm including the Arkansas game. We could play that type of game. And as much as it makes everybody feel like, oh, well, we lost like that to that team, New Mexico State, well, we're going to lose by 80 to Bama. That loss could fuel and generate the best possible outcome for this game. I'm not saying that outcome is a win necessarily, but I'm saying that's possible because that's how football works. As a bettor, I've seen it year after year. After the last week of the season, bet the least. Bet you're betting the least. I remember, what was it? It was around the time when USC was still cooking and Pete Carroll was still there. It was after 2004. So, of course, they won that. They was in our spot. It should have been us. And they lost to UCLA at the end of the season. UCLA was awful. They were like a 3 or 4 win team. And they lost to UCLA. And that was their chance to get back to a BCS game. They lost to UCLA. Everybody kind of thought, oh, well, you know, it's a rivalry game. To be honest with you, I still don't think that USC team was as good as everybody remembers. I think they had a lot of trash competition. Another conversation for another day. But this was still some elite recruits. This was still Pete Carroll as the head coach who had his system in place. They had done the big winning. They had gone back to back. And they lost to a team that wasn't even 500. It can happen. It happens a lot. It happens every year. There's a huge upset in somebody who has no business beating somebody else. It's not impossible for us to have our best effort this week, for Bama to play a shaky game on the road. We've been doing this. And if people said, well, I think Mike was the one who said yesterday that his Ole Miss friend said, welcome to the Hugh Freeze experience. Yeah, well, the Hugh Freeze experience is dropping something that you shouldn't drop, if that's what they're saying. It's also beating people that nobody think you had a chance to beat.
That is correct.
So I expect the energy to be correct for this game. I expect this team to want to get something back after that effort, to show something. You talked about how focused but disappointed, but somehow resolute Eugene Asante sounded in the post game. We have talent on this team. We have quality players on this team, and they gave their worst effort of the year. I gotta think they want to get that taste out of their mouths and show something extremely much better this week. And that's why I can't put it out of it's not impossible for us to rush for 200 plus. It is not guaranteed that we're going to go in here and look bad in Jordan Hare this weekend. That is not what I expect to see. I expect to see a dogfight for at least 2.5 quarters. Yes, I expect to see that. 200 yards rushing. I will say this: we're not going to beat Bama primarily rushing. We would have to put the ball in the air.
No,
and pass.
yeah. Listen, to win this game, Peyton Thorne needs to be on his thing, right? Like,
yeah.
But if you expect Peyton Thorne to go out there and throw for 40 times and beat Bama, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to figure out ways to run the ball. And that's why I focused on that this morning. You got to figure out how to get what I think is the most talented group on this offense involved in this football game more often, and that's the running back room.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen a game where we've been as unimaginative in the way that we ran the ball as we did versus New Mexico State.
Yeah.
There was not a single jet sweep, a thing that Jeremiah Cobb has eaten on all season. They didn't even attempt to do it one single time that entire game.
Yeah.
It was basically just the zone read RPO game the entire game when it came to the run game. Now, we didn't get a lot of possessions, so maybe with more possessions, we would have seen more variety. But I just didn't see an attempt on our part to do anything but what was the base offense versus New Mexico State. For what they came in here with the game plan and treated that New Mexico State game like we're more talented, we should beat them, as opposed to we have a way that we want to attack this team. And that was the downfall, in my opinion, of how this offense performed.
Yeah. Was
the game plan assumed your talent is. This is kind of if we're going to be honest, this is kind of the theme of how this season has gone is talent is going to win this game. Talent is going to win, or we're not, the talent we have is too big of a gap for us to win this game. That seemed to be kind of the theme of all of this. It's been about the talent. And so when we felt we're more talented, we went out there and we treated it kind of like a scrimmage. Can't do that versus Bama, and I'm hoping that this team comes out ready to change trajectory in that regard. And that starts, in my opinion, with the coaching staff. And I think the coaching staff is definitely going in this week with a different kind of focus on what needs to happen in this game. And I think the players feel embarrassed by what happened last week, and I hope that that turns into a different kind of passion towards this game. As Jalen Simpson said, people will talk a lot about how he said that, he felt like the score was going to be the opposite direction. He also said in that post-game presser that it's the Iron Bowl. You don't really need a bunch of motivation. If you need motivation for this game, then I don't know what's wrong with you. This game provides motivation all on its own. Let's come in here ready to play. So hopefully we will see a team that is ready to play. All right, we are going to get over into the comment section. We appreciate you guys dropping in with us this morning. As usual, the morning drop is brought to you by our good folks over at Lynch Toyota of Auburn today. Not only can you shop new Toyota vehicles like the popular Camry, Tacoma, and RAV4, but you'll also find great deals on a huge selection of certified pre-owned vehicles. To top it off, all new Toyotas purchased from Lynch Toyota include a lifetime warranty, unlimited years, unlimited miles, and nationwide coverage for free. To buy, sell, or trade, or service your vehicle, make sure you stop by Lynch Toyota of Auburn for the best customer experience. Get started now at lynchtoyotaofauburn.com. All Toyotas are created equal. Lynch Toyota makes the difference. You guys are difference makers out here in the comment section, and we appreciate everybody who continues to support the War Report. We will start it off. You got to change your name immediately. But Diego Pavia gets it started off. Y'all think the issue with the offense is that we're trying to not to lose with our current QB instead of trusting him to go win?
You know, we stumbled on part of this yesterday when we were having on the weekend tailgate. And Ike, you were countering me and Mike's it's the coaches, it's the coaches, it's the coaches. Well, this week alone, it's not like everything can't just fall off a cliff in 1 week. If they had been coaching well for a few weeks, and you made the point that the players had to carry some of that because you had been performing. And the reason that the coaches, it can't just be the coaches in 1 week is because help me if I articulate this wrong, then help me out because I don't want to misquote you here. The culture in the locker room and the standard in the locker room for this team should be as such where there is a baseline that we don't drop to. And that baseline, we dropped below that baseline last week. So if the culture was correct, if the motivation was correct for the entire team and all the players, then that doesn't happen. And I made the point that, well, I think that I agree with you. There is a problem with the overall motivation and the overall standard for the team. But the reason that it looked so good for the 3 weeks prior to this game was because the season was on the line. The bowl game was on the line, which was a low water mark for what you want to achieve this season. 3 very bad opponents that we had an opportunity to get the bowl game. We had an opportunity to get bowl game eligible. We did it and we got it. They kind of checked that off the list. And the thing that I think that I thought as I attributed some of Hugh Freeze's effort and how hands-on he was with the offense and we know this because he told us he had been more hands-on with the offense. He had made that decision to do that. I thought that once he is present and puts his hands on the offense and he's that present with the team and they're rallying after that SEC game losing streak and we're over and we're trying to get in the winning column, then he has that effect on the team when he is that present. But if he is not, just like any operation where if the supervisor's there and they're like, all right, we're going to do all right. And as soon as he leaves, then the workers or whatever. I think that's the situation here. And with the quarterback position specifically, I think he's just a very mediocre quarterback, honestly. And if Hugh Freeze doesn't come up with a tailored game plan, if I'm not game planning this for you, just you, oh no, if I being a parent, me being a parent, hey, your kid's not eating this food we left. Oh, so look, you got to do it like this. You got to use this spoon. You got to zip it around like this. You got to say these words and get him to laugh and then put it in his mouth. I think that is kind of what's going on here. He's just all right. You can kind of lift the team's performance and the offense's performance if you being the head coach, in this case, I'm making that the parent, the supervisor and the parent in this situation, you can lift the performance of the team. You don't want to have to do that. You want them to have some of that baseline be higher on their own. But this is a mishmash group of players. This is old players and new players. And nobody here is really somebody that you recruited straight up as far as significant contributors on the offensive end. Maybe Connor Lew is the only one that's here that you recruited, you told to come in. But other than that, there is a cohesive, motivational discipline issue. And we saw that. We saw hands are off. You're not that good. If I put my hands on, oh, okay, now you're good again. This quarterback's floor is much lower than I think we thought it was going to be. And probably, if I'm guessing, lower than Hugh Freeze thought it was going to be. And yes, I think some of it is they don't trust what he can do without having a significant hand. Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I think. And they took their hands off of it just long enough to make the effort that we saw last week. And I think he knows now, like, all right, I know what it is. I don't think that they're going to have their hands off for the Bama game. Obviously, it's going to be all hands on deck trying to make the best effort possible. But yeah, I think the issue to Mr. Pavia's point, hey, man, yeah, change that name. To Mr. Pavia's point,
as Chris is apparently he said he changed it.
Okay. To Chris S's point is they don't just trust them because the floor is not high enough. They thought the floor was higher. They thought there was a basic you get this and you get that, and I don't have to ABC that for you, and I trust that you're not going to make these mistakes. No, that's not what we are. That's not who he is. The offense, they don't really trust all the wide receivers, obviously. I think it's obvious that the overall level of maturity for the players on this offense, as far as what they can and can't execute on the field consistently, is not what he wanted it to be. And therefore, they just get really safe and conservative when stuff isn't working. If it's working out the gate, they go, okay, I think you got it. We got it. You got some momentum. You believe it. I believe it. Let's go. If it doesn't work out the gate, buddy, we are in trouble.
Yeah, listen, I've rewatched this game now twice, and I think really the biggest issue of that offense was, again, it was very vanilla out the gate. But to the question of Peyton Thorne and the trust issue of them trying to manage him so he doesn't make mistakes, I think that Peyton Thorne is risk averse. I think that he is scared to death of making mistakes, and he makes mistakes, and it doesn't necessarily defeat him because he's not like, I don't think he's a quarterback that goes out, but it makes him gun shy, right? When he thinks he sees something and he doesn't see that, and he makes a mistake, now he's, oh, wait a minute, am I sure that I'm not gonna throw that because it might not. Let me check one more time and make sure that backside linebacker wasn't right there. Maybe make sure one time that there's not a DB sitting in, and that makes him tentative when he makes a mistake. But I don't think that that's a coaching staff putting handcuffs on him. I think that that's Peyton Thorne deciding he doesn't want to be he don't want to be the reason anybody's upset at the end of the game. He didn't make the mistake to turn the ball over. He didn't make the dumb throw. He'd rather just take the sack or
run it,
or take off running.
Right. Yeah. You get that 4 or 5 yards, and God bless him, man. He is willing to take that contact, to take those hits. A lot of time, I'm like, hey, man, wouldn't you rather give on 1 or 2 times? I think you noted in the group chat when we was watching the game live. It was like, yeah, he should have gave that to Jarquez on that run. I'm like, yeah, he should have. It's like, it almost seems like now he's like, nope, I'm gonna do it. I got it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try my best to get us out the situation, because, like you said, there are things there. It looks like he's gun shy. It looks like he doesn't trust the wide open wide receiver that's right there. But what can you do if that's your starting quarterback, though? What can you do to mitigate that in such a short amount of time? Like, you can't get him out of his head, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that you have to do is really figure out from a scheme perspective what things you can do to scheme guys open. And the thing will be, hey, this guy should be open. And this was the Gus Malzahn philosophy offensively, and I didn't like it as a long-term success plan, but it should work on a 1-game basis.
Right.
Hey, this guy's supposed to be open, and if he's not, take off running.
Right.
All right. And unfortunately, I mean, we like to charge the Gus Malzahn quarterbacks, specifically Bo Nix, with being one read and run quarterbacks. That's what the offense asked him to do.
Right.
Was throw it to this guy, and if he's not there, then take off. Didn't really have a bunch. Now, hopefully, Coach Hugh Freeze actually puts a check down in there. Didn't have a lot of check downs available for in the Gus offense. So it should be, and we've heard this mantra being repeated in the preseason: touchdown, check down. So it should be touchdown, check down, run. Right? Hey, the first thing we're going to do is try to scheme this guy open. What I want Peyton Thorne to be able to do is see that early. If it's not there, get to your check down early, and if that's not there, then you take off running. Unfortunately, for some reason, his processing speed has been either too quickly or too slowly in those scenarios where he comes off of a read too soon, and it's actually there if he'd just be a little more patient.
Right.
And then he's gotten into this, he's reading it too slowly, and it was there, but you waited too long to throw it, and then he has to take off running. He's got to figure out that processing a little bit more quickly, a little bit more accurately in his speed of processing, and make it happen. Yeah. Jonathan Boyson says, I got the mug. First thing you see on my coffee bar. That is what's up. We appreciate you, Jonathan, for
congratulations
always
on the win.
No longer Diego Pavia. Chris S says, how hard will it be for this team to put this L behind them and get into the Tide's tail? Don't know. That's essentially the question is, can you find the motivation for the sake of yourself, regardless of how you feel about this season and what your aspirations, do you say to yourself, I'm not going to put another week of bad tape out there? Forget what I
Right.
feel about this coaching staff. Forget what I feel about the direction of this program. Forget what I feel about how we played last Saturday. I am not personally going to put another bad week of tape out there for me. I'm going to be
Right.
where I'm supposed to be. I'm going to do my job. And the tape is going to say I was where I was supposed to be on this play, offense and defense. Because that's what it should come down to for them.
It should. The home, this being a home game, they're going to get all the motivation from the crowd. I know it wasn't a raucous crowd on Saturday. Everybody thought we had it in the bag. Apparently, coaches, players, fans, everybody thought we had it in the bag. But this game is different. I'm sure part of the recruiting pitch is to play in this game. All eyes on you, the dynastic coach and program, and you get them at home to take them down. Not only for the reasons that you said, Ike, which is you can play for you. You can play for your draftability, for your, hey, if you want to leave in the offseason, hey, put out some good tape right here. Show out against Bama and watch your options tick up. But also the pride. I do think, I mean, this team is not what I think the team was last year. And we talk about cohesiveness and motivation of this team. I don't think this is a team that grew up together that has this bond. Like if you hear the 04 team talk about each other and with each other, no, this is not that. And why would it be that? That team was together for 4 years. This team has been together for 1 year. And it's a mishmash of guys with different skill sets and different levels of talent and motivation. And you can, though, rally behind this one thing that just happened. Y'all are all part of the worst, probably the worst loss of y'all's career as far as the level of talent that was across from you and who you are as a player and what you expect yourself to be as a player. This can be the thing. And it doesn't have to be a full season's worth now. It's one game. And you can wipe the disgust out of your mouth, out of your mind, all those plays that you missed or that could have gone better. You can play one game, the game of your life, and everybody will completely forget that you lost. It won't forget, but it won't matter no more. The upset of Alabama would mean way more, way more than the fact that you lost to New Mexico State. It would then be an extra blight on Alabama that they lost to a team that lost to New Mexico State. And they had that in front of them. I think that's motivation enough. I don't think they're going to have a problem getting up for this game anyway. But again, I've seen it too many times. Players are eager to go out there and erase a bad game by having a great game. And I think that they can do that.
Yeah. All right. Jonathan Boyson jumps back in and says we're going to have to be able to throw or they will stack the box. That seems to be the best way to go. If I was defending Auburn, that's what I would do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to do. I stuck that. I send that pressure Python. I run blitz and blitz. That's all I'm doing. You gonna see 5 people every time until somebody stop me. You're gonna have to get like 3 first downs for a peel back. Like, all right, you got me.
Miller House says Bama ain't gonna take us serious. I really hope that this is true. I hope they come in here like, man, we got this in the bag. Now, the difference I think is, and listen, I get it. People might not like hearing me say this. Bama may not take you seriously initially, but if you come out there and you start showing that you're not going to lay down because they just walked into the building with Bama on their helmet, they're going to turn it back on at some point in time because they kind of have that in them. And so you have to figure out after you throw your initial punch, if it doesn't knock them to the canvas, what are you going to do to continue to fight?
Yeah, I don't think Bama has a problem. And this, to Nick Saban's credit, for all the credit he's given as a coach, y'all know I've never thought he was the greatest football coach. He may be the greatest college program builder, but he does have his team play to his standard. And maybe sometimes they're not good enough. Like there have been years that like they just aren't that good. Okay, that's fine. But what they aren't going to do is come in and sleepwalk through a game the way we did. I've never seen that from a Nick Saban team. Halftime comes, even this year when they haven't been great. After halftime, they fix it. Yeah. They are a great second half team. we may shock them, we may surprise them and get some points up quick and create a little lead or something like that. But after halftime, that's it, man. The coaches are engaged, the players are engaged, and they're going to be there to win that game. I think they don't have a choice but to take us serious because Nick Saban has often talked about how this is a daunting environment to play in. He knows how serious this game is here. He will not take it lightly, and therefore, I don't think the team will take it lightly.
Yeah.
It will not. They'll take us seriously. They'll take us seriously.
But I am hoping that they come in a little overconfident, and it gives us a little bit of juice coming out the gate. And then, listen, this defense, despite what happened this past weekend, is still a good defense. And if you can come out playing well initially and get yourself a little bit of a cushion, your defense start playing with a little swagger, you never know what happens.
It's true.
Lawrence Robinson says, if we can get better perimeter blocking and easy throws, we can win. That's going to be a tough task to get better perimeter blocking all of a sudden.
Yeah. Can you play outside of yourself for one game?
Blocking is kind of one of those things where and some guys just either have that or they don't. I don't like the offensive line could probably block because I've seen them block well before. The offensive line can probably play above their helmets a little bit for a couple of quarters and push some guys around. But that perimeter blocking is just different, man. And I don't know. I haven't seen that consistently all year. Maybe on a play or two, we can out leverage them and do some stuff, but it's gonna take a tremendous amount of effort.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Ant Robinson says, same thing I've been saying all year. Put fair weather on the field and let them play. I don't care if they are slot guys, they make plays. I agree with this. I agree with getting your best guys on the field and figuring out a way to get them the football. If you've said consistently that your best receivers are these guys, put the darn football in their hands, scheme ways to get them open, and let them go out there and make plays for you that allow them to showcase multiple. Because if you just keep doing it in the same ways, it's predictable. Right. Find different ways to get those guys the football in ways that you haven't been doing previously, and they're going to yield some better results, I think, because I think that they're actually talented enough to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Susan Scale says, gotta forget about last Saturday like it never happened. That's the only way that you can move forward.
I can't, Susan. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't forget about that.
I mean, you can't. The players need to.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I see what you're saying. I hope that they can. Or you know what? I forget about it again. That's your fire. That should be the fire that got lit. That helps you make up for that terrible game last week. Hopefully they remember it, but in the right way. Use it as fuel and not as depressing.
Yeah, we will see. We will definitely see what happens. All right, we are going to get out of here. We will be back at you guys with another morning drop tomorrow. But as always, the morning drop is sponsored by our guys over at Rogue Shop. Make sure you head to rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT when you do that. Lets them know that we sent you over there. Code REPORT gets you access to a discount on America's #1 online dispensary. They got stuff for sleep, stress, anxiety, pain, all of those things that you probably experienced on Saturday watching Auburn play football. If you have any issues, make sure you head over to rogueshop.com and use code REPORT. We'll be back at you guys again tomorrow morning. Make sure you like the video before you get out of here. Subscribe to the channel. Share it if you're listening to it on podcast. We appreciate you guys. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Drop!